Hello, BookTube. It's Friday. That means Friday reads. I thought I would show you a chunk of the stuff I want to read this weekend, this long weekend. Every weekend's a long weekend when you work at home. I started today. I'll just continue nonstop for the whole weekend. I have some writing to do. I have a particularly sticky deadline piece that it's going to require a lot more work than simply writing the piece. And that's the whole weekend as well. But I plan to get in a lot of reading, and if it's not too much of a book bombardment, I thought I would show you those books, starting with a couple that we've seen already. There's this, Birdsong, which came out late enough for me to know better, 2005. I should have borrowed this or bought it. I should have read this by now, and I've never heard of it before. So, and we here in Boston are gradually, slowly welcoming back our seasonal bird residents. Early in the morning, Frida got me up at 5:30 this morning. So we were walking in the dark. The horizon was just barely brightening. And I was hearing the rustlings and the beginning vocalizations of some people who have been gone for the whole winter. So this is the perfect time to read this. The next one is something we also saw just recently. When I went out and about, I got this weird used book, Murder Most Foul, by Gordon Punter, a novel about Sherlock Holmes encountering Jack the Ripper's crime spree in London in 1888. And I don't know how I missed this when it originally was published. I can't wait to read it. But those two are the only books in this Friday Reads that aren't new. It's about the right proportion that I do nowadays. All the rest of them are new, starting with this one, My Patients and Other Animals, by Susie Finchman Gray. This is her debut work of nonfiction. She's a veterinarian, and this is her veterinarian stories, being in the front lines, meeting all sorts of interesting pets and owners on two different in England and in America. And I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, and I'm sure that I will clench up, and I'm sure that I will laugh. And I've read many books like this over the years. So I'd add another one to the pile, absolutely. Then this next one is a biography. I think it's the only biography that I'll be reading this weekend, which is kind of weird for me. And the biography itself is also kind of weird. But I've heard, I was planning on ignoring this book, but I have heard from a couple of people whose opinions I respect that it shouldn't be ignored, that it's actually got meat on its bones. So it's by Jeff Benedict and Armin Ketien, and it's this. It's a new biography of Tiger Woods. I was going to ignore it, but people whose opinions I respect, especially in sports writing, have told me, no, you should give it a try. So I'm going to. I mean, this is only the end of March, but even so, 2018 has featured so far more sports-oriented writing that I have read than all of 2017 combined. So I don't know if that's a trend. That probably is a trend. But this next one, can't wait to get to it. This is about Sudan. It's about Khartoum. It's A Line in the River, Khartoum, City of Memory, by Jamal Majoub, whose family was from there and who left in 1989. I think it was 1989. Yeah, 1989. A coup in Sudan brought hardline Islamic fundamentalists into power. His family fled, and then he returned 20 years later and walked around and soaked up places, how they've changed, how they've stayed the same, talked to people. And this is his big account of the city of Khartoum in his memory and in reality. And it sounds just fantastic. And look at how beautiful it is. I know I never say that about an American cover design, but there is the city embossed on the surface of the cover with the river running right through it, all in white. I think that's just lovely. And it's just the sort of thing. I will read it. I will love it. I'm sure I will love it. We'll see. I mean, unless he goes heavy on the sap unless he gets sappily sentimental, which I don't see him doing. We'll see. I will report back. This next one is an author who is a proven category for me, so I am sure that I will love the book. I'm sure that it will infuriate me, but I'm sure that I will love it. This is Timothy Snyder. This is The Road to Unfreedom: Russia, Europe, and America. Unfreedom is a coinage of his. It's a thing that kind of a neologism that I have a little bit of a problem with. I don't know why. He's the author of a great book called On Tyranny, and I don't know why he doesn't just use the word tyranny instead of unfreedom, which could be anything. I mean, Frida, technically, my little puppy, is unfree. So I would rather that he use the word tyranny. But this is an author who is always great. Like, for instance, I just read, I caught a bit of this. I'm going to read and absorb it with a pencil in hand, but I caught a bit of this when I was putting this thing into a pile of books. I thought I would read it to you. All of the virtues depend upon truth, and truth depends upon them all. Final truth in this world is unattainable, but its pursuit leads the individual away from unfreedom. The temptation to believe what feels right assails us at all times from all directions. Authoritarianism begins when we can no longer tell the difference between the true and the appealing. At the same time, the cynic who decides that there is no truth at all is the citizen who welcomes the tyrant. Total doubt about all authority is naivete about the particular authority that reads emotions and breeds cynicism. To seek the truth means finding a way between conformity and complacency towards individuality. That's good stuff. So I'm looking forward to reading this, even though it's just maddening to me to see Europe, Russia, and then America. It's just maddening to me to see that. The next one is a much ballyhooed debut novel. It is now finally translated into English. I have heard echoes of this thing's renown, but I have not bothered to reach out my hand and find it in any language that I can read. I just sort of complacently waited for it to show up in English. And sure enough, the people who brought it to us in English is Europa Editions. The great press. And this is Disoriental. Isn't that lovely? This is a novel called Disoriental, a debut novel by Negar Dajvadi. I don't quite know how to pronounce that. But it is the story. Let me read you this. Kimia Sadr fled Iran with her mother and sisters at the age of 10 to join her father in France. Now in her 20s, sitting in a fertility clinic in Paris as she awaits life-changing news, Kimia is inundated by memories of her ancestors, reminiscences and family myths that reach her in unstoppable waves. Generations of flamboyant satyrs return to her, including her formidable great-grandfather, Montes Molmalk, and his harem of 52 wives, and her distracted but ardent parents, Sarah and Darius, stalwart opponents of each political regime that has befallen them. In this high-spirited, multi-generational tale, key moments of Iranian history punctuate a story about motherhood, family, exile, rebellion, and love. And I can't wait to get to it. And then the next one is True Crime, a shooting that took place in Wisconsin in 1970. It's called With One Shot. The subtitle is Family Murder and a Search for Justice. The author is Dorothy Marsick, and the reason it's family murder is because the man who was shot dead was her uncle. And it's got a very appealingly somber cover, and it tells she takes it upon herself to investigate that murder for which someone was tried and convicted. She talks to everyone who's still alive who was involved. She reads over the court transcripts, and it seems fruitful as a subject matter. I really love true crime anyway, and this is going to satisfy that itch for the weekend. And then the last thing, take 15 minutes to go through, but I wanted to hold it up anyway, and I will report back about it. This is by Rachel Levin, and it's Look Big. Look at that picture. The subtitle is And Other Tips for Surviving Animal Encounters of All Kinds. And that's what it is. The book is an alphabetical list of animals and what to do when you encounter them. And I was looking through it. I was sort of glancing through it. I was seeing that how many of these animals I have encountered myself. So I'm looking forward to reading the do's and don'ts and the stories involved here. Because it looks like you get an overview of how likely trouble is and what the trouble will take. Then you get an insert about what to do and what not to do. And in some cases, you also get a one-page story, an anecdote by some different writer. And each one comes with some very lovely artwork. Let me show you the one for wolves. The one for wolves is just beautiful. I'd take it as a poster if it existed. Look at that. So I naturally I want to go through this and probably argue with it, but we shall see. I will report back. So that is my Friday reads. A nice variety of stuff that I'm actually going to get to. I ordinarily turn into a pumpkin at midnight and just start reading nonstop, but I'm going to read a couple of these things this evening, and play hooky from the writing that I know I have to be doing. But anyway, as always with Friday readings, I want to know what you're reading. And I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.